Picture two people, same city, same age, both 37, same salary range, same rental neighborhood, same Tuesday morning commute. On paper, identical. The first person drives a leased SUV, new phone every year, 3 streaming services, a meal kit subscription, a gym they visit twice a month at best. They are not irresponsible. They work hard. They genuinely care. But they keep telling themselves they will sort the money situation out once things slow down a bit. Things do not slow down. 40 approaches. The bank account hovers low most months. The savings account exists technically, but rarely grows past a few $100s. The second person earns almost the same. Same city, same cost of living. But about 18 months ago, they made one quiet decision that changed everything downstream. They did not cut everything they loved. And they did not live on spreadsheets. They just stopped letting money move through their life entirely on autopilot. No big drama. By 37, the second person has $42,000 invested, a 5-month emergency fund, no revolving credit card debt, not because they earn more. They do not. The first person has a retirement account opened at 29 and barely looked at since. A credit card balance that resets to zero and quietly creeps back up every few months. Same city, same income, same generation. Radically different financial lives. The difference has almost nothing to do with how much either of them earns. Not even close. It is not discipline. It is not intelligence. It is not that one of them is luckier or harder working or more naturally gifted with numbers than the other person is. The gap between them was built slowly, one small choice at a time, driven by something neither of them consciously understood or named. But it has a name. It can be changed. One of them has a relationship with money assembled by accident, inherited from old environments, shaped by emotions never examined. It runs quietly in the background every day. The other person did one thing most people never do. They looked at the pattern underneath their choices, not the choices themselves, and they decided to interrupt it. The first person is not behind because life is unfair. They are behind because of a behavioral script they picked up early and never questioned. That script is still running right now. This is not a story about income. And it is a story about the invisible gap between who you are and the financial life you want, and exactly what sits in between them. Every personal finance conversation you have ever had probably started in the same place. Budget better, cut the coffee, automate your savings, invest early. Good advice, all of it. And you have heard it. You know it. You may have even tried it. But here you are, still feeling behind, still not where you expected to be at this point in your life. Here is what no one tells you. The problem is not that you do not know what to do. The problem is that knowing and doing are completely different cognitive events in the brain. Knowing what to do requires information. Doing it consistently requires something harder. Rewiring the connection between your emotional state and the decisions your brain makes automatically. Personal finance has a knowledge problem on the surface. Underneath that, it has an identity problem. And underneath that, it has a fear problem. Most advice only ever touches the surface. The advice you have received treats you like a rational agent who just needs better data. But you are not a spreadsheet. You are a nervous system with a history. That changes everything. The behaviors keeping you financially stuck right now, the avoidance, the impulse purchases, the frozen feeling, are not character flaws. They are responses. They are learned patterns. And learned responses can be unlearned, but only if you understand exactly how they got installed in the first place. So that is what this video is actually about, the mechanism underneath. You are about to understand why smart, capable people end up financially behind. Not because they failed at money, but because their brain was solving a completely different problem. Once you see the mechanism clearly, the behavior stops feeling shameful. It feels mechanical. And mechanical problems have mechanical solutions. Let us start with the mechanism itself. Your brain does not experience money as a financial instrument. It experiences it as safety, as status, as proof of worth, as love, sometimes. The numbers are almost secondary to all of that. Every time you check your bank balance and feel that tightening in your chest, your brain is not calculating. It is feeling. And feelings drive behavior far more than logic does. There is a system in your brain. Researchers call it the default mode network, constantly running background simulations of your social world and your safety within it. When money feels uncertain, this system fires. It produces low-level anxiety. And anxiety does something specific. It narrows your time horizon. You stop thinking years ahead. When your time horizon shrinks, future consequences stop feeling real. The version of you who is 62 and financially comfortable becomes abstract, distant, almost fictional. The version of you who is tired and stressed on a Thursday evening is very real. And that version wants relief right now, not discipline 5 years from now. Not even close. This is the core mechanism. It is called present bias. It is not a flaw. It is an evolved feature. Your brain was designed to solve immediate problems, not hypothetical future ones. But present bias does not stay in its lane. In a world where every financial decision requires you to sacrifice now for later, present bias costs you everything it possibly can. Every time you avoid opening the credit card statement, that is present bias protecting you from discomfort right now. Every impulse buy at checkout, present bias, offering instant relief. Every time you think, I will start investing next month, present bias. Every time you say, I deserve this to justify a purchase you already know is off plan, present bias. Every single time. Present bias is not your enemy. It kept your ancestors alive. The problem is, it has not been updated for a world of compound interest and 30-year retirement horizons. Not even slightly. Here is what makes this so hard. Present bias is invisible from the inside. You do not feel biased. You feel justified. The logic always seems reasonable in the moment. That is exactly how it works. You will not overcome present bias through motivation alone. Motivation is itself a present tense emotional state. It feeds the same system. You need a completely different tool entirely. That tool is architecture. You design your environment so that future you wins automatically, before present you ever gets a chance to negotiate. We will come back to precisely how to do that. But first, you need to understand the 5 specific behaviors this mechanism produces in real financial life. You will recognize every single one. That recognition is where real change begins. You are sitting on the couch on a Wednesday evening. The day was long. You did something hard, and without fully deciding to, you open your phone and spend $40 you did not plan to, not on anything important. A clothing item you mostly wanted, a gadget you will use twice, a subscription you add on impulse and forget to cancel for 4 months. Does this sound familiar? This is the comfort loop. It is the most common financial behavior pattern among people who are otherwise doing everything else right. And it lives entirely beneath conscious awareness. The comfort loop works like this. Stress builds from work, from relationships, from the baseline fatigue of modern life. Your brain registers that stress as a low-level ongoing threat signal. Spending creates a brief neurological reward. Dopamine releases. The threat quiets. You feel momentarily better. The brain logs this. Spending equals relief. The loop is installed and running. This is not retail therapy as a casual joke. This is a real, learned neural pathway. Every time you use a purchase to manage an emotion, that pathway gets reinforced and becomes faster. The mechanism underneath is emotional regulation through consumption. It is the same system that drives other compulsive behaviors, just far more socially acceptable than most of them. You probably do not feel out of control when it happens. You feel like you earned it. You feel reasonable. You feel like you deserve it. That is what makes the comfort loop so difficult to break. The reframe is not stop spending. It is, what am I trying to regulate right now? Name the emotion. Give it a non-financial outlet. That one interruption is often enough to change the outcome. Comfort spending is not about money. It is about unprocessed stress finding the fastest available exit. Once you see it that way, the behavior stops being about willpower. It becomes about design. You earn more than you did at 25. Life is better on most measures. And somewhere along the way, your spending grew, not to match your income, but the person you believe you should now be. New job, nicer clothes, promotion, nicer car, relationship, nicer apartment, raise, nicer restaurant. Each step made sense. Each felt like a natural expression of where you are now in life. This is identity spending. And it is one of the largest drivers of why high earners still feel financially stuck. It is almost never about lack of money. It is about the cost of performing a self. Your brain carries a model of who you are, not just privately, but in the world. What you drive, where you eat, what your home looks like. Your spending continuously maintains that internal model. When a purchase aligns with your self-image, your brain registers it as identity congruent. It feels correct. Cutting it feels like losing part of yourself. That is neuroscience, not metaphor. That is how strong this runs. The trap is that your identity model was set during a period of comparison. You benchmarked against colleagues, social feeds, people one level ahead. That benchmark quietly became your floor. As your income grows, your floor rises. The gap between what you earn and what you save stays identical or widens. Lifestyle inflation is not a budgeting problem. It is an identity problem. The mechanism is called social identity theory. Your spending is partly rational, partly functional, and partly a continuous signal about who you are. All three are running at the same time. The reframe is not to become frugal. It is to consciously choose which parts of your identity are worth the cost, and stop paying for parts that belong to a version someone else defined for you. When you decide what your identity actually requires versus what it has accumulated by default, the things that feel like you are almost always far cheaper than the things that just look like you. There is a number you have been avoiding. Maybe it is your total debt. Maybe it is your real net worth. Maybe it is a retirement account opened years ago and never looked at since. You know the one. You have not looked because looking feels worse than not knowing. Logically, not looking changes nothing. Emotionally, it protects you from a feeling you are simply not ready to have yet. This is the avoidance tax. Every day you do not look at your finances clearly, you pay a hidden fee, not always in dollars, but in decisions made with incomplete and inaccurate information. Financial avoidance is extremely common and almost never discussed. Most money advice assumes you have already opened the statements. Most people have not, and the shame around this makes it worse. Here is what avoidance does over time. It turns money into a vague, threatening presence rather than a specific set of numbers. Vague threats are far harder to solve than specific ones always are. When money is a vague threat, you cope by not thinking about it. Not thinking means no decisions get made. Nothing changes. Nothing changing reinforces the original avoidance. A perfectly closed loop. The mechanism is anxiety-based cognitive avoidance. Your brain filters out stimuli it has tagged as threatening, automatically below conscious control, in genuine service of protecting you from pain. But the protection is false. What you are avoiding does not disappear when you look away. It compounds. Interest accumulates. Opportunities close quietly. The cost of not looking is very real. The reframe is this: clarity is never as bad as your anxiety promises it will be. Running the actual numbers is almost always survivable. The dread is worse than the fact, almost without exception. One honest hour with your real numbers is worth 3 months of optimistic guessing. It will feel hard for 15 minutes, then become surprisingly neutral. Schedule it. Open everything. Stay in the room. And if you met your future self at 62, what would you want for that person? Security, options, the ability to stop working if health required it, the freedom to help people you love without financial strain. Now, here is the strange part. Research shows that when you imagine your future self, your brain treats them more like a stranger than like you, like a different person entirely. It is measurable. This is called the future self discount. The further a version of yourself is in time, the less emotional connection you feel to their well-being. Your present self naturally and automatically deprioritizes them. Saving for retirement feels abstract because future you is not neurologically real to present you. They are a concept, and concepts do not compete well against immediate physical reality. Not even close. The research on this is remarkable. People shown age-progressed images of themselves consistently allocated more money to retirement than those who were not. You literally need to see future you to care for them. Your brain also discounts future pain. The consequences of not saving feel distant and theoretical. The mild discomfort of not buying something right now feels immediate, physical, and entirely real. So present you keeps winning every single time. Not because you do not care about the future, but because present. You is the one making the decision in real time, surrounded by real triggers. The mechanism is called temporal discounting, valuing present rewards more than future ones, even when the math clearly favors the future. It is universal, it is powerful, and it is beatable. The reframe is straightforward. Make future. You feel like present you. Write a letter to yourself at 62. Name what that person needs. Build a picture specific enough to generate real felt loyalty. Once future you becomes real, saving stops being sacrifice and starts being an act of protection. You are not depriving yourself. You are protecting someone who happens to be you. That shift is enormous. Every few months, something shifts. You feel behind. You open a budgeting app, read several articles, watch a few videos. You feel motivated. You make a new plan. You mean it this time. You really do. The plan lasts 2 weeks. Then something happens. A big unexpected expense, a hard week, and the plan breaks. And when it breaks, something worse follows. You reset entirely and start completely over. And this is the reset ritual, the pattern of reaching for total financial reinvention every time a strategy fails, rather than adjusting and continuing. It looks like dedication. It is actually self-sabotage. The reset feels productive because starting over is emotionally clean. You get to be the person finally serious about money for about 14 days. Then the cycle repeats and the gap widens further. Here is the real cost. Every time you stop and restart, you lose compounding time. You also reinforce the belief that your financial habits are fragile, and fragile habits collapse at the first inconvenience. The mechanism is all or nothing thinking, black and white cognition. One missed contribution means the plan is broken. One unplanned expense means you have failed. Neither is true. Both feel completely true. High performers in every field understand what sets them apart. What matters is not never failing, but recovering faster. The best financial behavior is not perfect. It is resilient. It bends and keeps moving. You do not need a perfect month. You need a system that assumes imperfect months and keeps running anyway. An automated pull on the first of the month that does not require your mood to function. Stop treating your financial life like a diet. Treat it like a practice. Practices do not end when you miss a day. They resume. The identity shifts from I try to save to I continue to save. permanent shift. The most financially stable people are not the ones with the best plans. They are the ones who built systems that work without them, who stopped using a bad week as permission to burn everything down. Let me make this concrete. Two people, Marcus and Daniel, both 28, both earning $56,000 a year, both carrying credit card debt from their mid-20s, completely identical starting point. At 28, Marcus sets up one automated transfer, $200 a month into an index fund before it touches his checking account. He does not budget perfectly. He just does that one thing. At 28, Daniel plans to start investing after paying off the credit card. The payoff takes 22 months. He celebrates by upgrading his car lease. The financial clock quietly resets. At 32, Marcus earns $68,000. He increases his automatic investment to $350 a month. He does not upgrade his lifestyle in any significant way. He barely notices the difference. At 32, Daniel also earns $68,000. He moves to a nicer apartment. He upgrades his wardrobe. He is more comfortable. He plans to start investing once the new expenses stabilize. At 35, Marcus has approximately $31,000 invested. Not dramatic, but real, compounding quietly in the background without requiring any ongoing attention from him. At 35, Daniel has $1,200 in savings and roughly $4,000 in credit card debt that reappeared after the car upgrade. Not irresponsible, just missing the one structural piece. At 38, Marcus contributes fully to his employer match, pushes his monthly investment to $500, and holds a 6-month emergency fund in a high-yield account. He sleeps differently now. At 38, Daniel has a moment of clarity. He opens every account. He runs the numbers. The gap between where he is and where he expected to be at 38 is large enough to feel physical. Daniel spends 3 weeks reading obsessively about personal finance. He builds a budget in 3 apps. He cancels subscriptions. He is genuinely motivated. He is completely certain this time is different. Daniel's pattern is to rebuild the motivation rather than the structure. Without automation, the drive fades in 6 weeks. Not thinking about it starts to feel safer than watching himself fail again. At 42, Marcus holds over $110,000 in investments. Not rich, not exceptional. Same income as Daniel. He automated one thing at 28 and kept adjusting it. Nothing more. At 42, and Daniel has $22,000 in a retirement account, most of it contributed during his motivation sprint at 38. Not hopeless, but roughly 10 years behind where he could have been. The difference between them is not income, intelligence, discipline, or luck. It is one behavioral pattern. Marcus automated the future. Daniel relied on willpower. Willpower depletes. Automation does not. Marcus did not win because he was better. He won because one structural decision removed present bias from the equation entirely. The system ran while he slept. That is the entire lesson in 2 sentences. If something is tightening in your chest right now, that is real. That feeling has a name. It is called financial grief, and it is one of the least discussed emotional experiences that adults quietly carry. It is the gap between the version of your financial life you imagined at this age and the one you actually have. That gap produces a genuine grief response. It is legitimate. You are allowed to feel it. But here is what that feeling is not. It is not proof that you are bad with money. It is not evidence of being undisciplined or careless or less capable than the people around you who appear fine. That feeling is information. It tells you that future you matters to present you. You are not someone who does not care. You are someone who has not yet built the right structure. That is a different problem entirely. The people who never feel this are not the ones with perfect finances. They are often the ones who stopped imagining their future. You have not stopped imagining. That is a real and meaningful advantage. What you are feeling right now is the beginning of a decision, not the end of anything. Awareness of the gap is not the failure. It is the moment just before the repair. Most people never even reach it. You do not need to rebuild your entire identity tonight. You need one small structural change made in the next 7 days, before this feeling fades and the old pattern quietly resumes. Just one thing. Here is what actually works. 3 actions, 3 time horizons. None of them require you to become a different person, just to design your environment differently than it currently is set up. This week, one action, under 1 hour. Open every financial account you have been avoiding and write down 5 numbers: total income, total debt, total savings, monthly spending, monthly gap. That is all. Just the numbers. No judgment required. No plan needed yet. You are gathering intelligence, turning a vague, threatening presence into a specific, workable, manageable set of facts. This week is not about fixing anything. It is about seeing clearly, possibly for the first time in a long time. 5 numbers on one page. The clarity that follows will surprise you. It almost always does. This month, one behavioral change, one system. Set up one automated transfer, even $50, into a separate investment or savings account, scheduled for the day after your paycheck arrives. Do not build a full budget. Do not track every dollar. Just create one automatic flow of money toward your future that does not require your cooperation or emotional state to keep running. One automation. Choose a number you will not miss right now, not a sacrifice, and just a quiet redirect. Before your present brain can assess it, negotiate with it, or decide it is needed somewhere else this month. This year, one identity shift. Stop identifying as someone trying to get better with money. Start identifying as someone who runs a financial system. Small, imperfect, but consistently running. Identity drives behavior more reliably than motivation does. I invest automatically produces different decisions than I am trying to save more. One is a state, the other is who you are. Choose the identity. Review your system once every 3 months, not weekly. That is just managing your anxiety. Once per quarter. Update your numbers, increase automation if possible, and note how far the system has already carried you. Picture 2 mornings, 15 years from now. First morning, you are 52, opening your phone with that familiar chest tightening, the same feeling. Older now, more expensive to carry, still unresolved, same avoidance, same cycle of motivation and collapse, same distance between where you are and where you wanted to be. Wider now, because 15 years of compounding worked against you instead of for you. Now the second morning. You are 52, and you wake up on a Tuesday, and do not think about money in that low-grade anxious way. Not because everything is perfect, because the system has been running quietly. You do not have everything you want, but you have options. Job decisions made from desire, not desperation. Emergencies that do not become catastrophes. You gave yourself choices. That is what the system purchased. The gap between those 2 mornings is not income or luck. It is a handful of small structural decisions made in the next 30 days. Your future self will not stop being grateful for those particular choices. Every financial decision from this point forward either builds that gap or closes it. Not the dramatic ones, the ordinary Tuesday ones. The ones that feel invisible because they run entirely on automatic. Money is not the goal. Money is the infrastructure beneath the goals. The question is not whether you can afford the life you want. It is whether you have built the structure that quietly carries you there. The person who figures this out before 40 does not just end up with more money. They end up with more of themselves. Start now. The math is patient, but it has already begun without you.